Welcome to the Why I series, where I take a look at some of the things I love, miss, and hate in video games. It is regarded as one of the most challenging franchises in gaming, boasting some of the hardest boss battles, grueling difficulty, enigmatic approach to storytelling, and haunting soundtracks. It's been the franchise that everyone has tried to emulate in some way, shape or form. I'm that Nomad Shad, and this is why I love SoulsBorne. If you've ever watched my streams, you know how much I enjoy the SoulsBorne series. You can catch these on Twitch every Monday to Wednesday, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and maybe a follow. Thank you! Today I want to focus on one of its core elements, the thing that made me fall in love with the series. It's combat. For the longest time, I tried to figure out what made this combat system so satisfying. And then it struck me. Please go check out SuperEyepatchWolf for some top tier content. I'll drop a link in the description below, so go and check it out. iPatch mentions two forms of motivation systems, intrinsic and extrinsic. So let's repeat it for you guys. Intrinsic motivation is the drive for the player to improve. Fighting games are the perfect example of this. It's on the player to improve, to get better, to beat everybody's ass. You know, you have a friend, you don't like him, you want to beat him in a game, so you improve. Simple. Extrinsic motivation is rewarding the player for getting further or completing certain actions within the game. So you won't improve, but you'll get cool loot along the way and it'll make your character better. Either that or you can spend money on microtransactions, but that's a problem for another day. Most games use a combination of both systems, but they lean heavily on one side or another. However, I feel that no game blends these two systems better than the SoulsBorne series. Now I can already hear most of you complaining that Shad, this is just a really hard action RPG. And you're both right and terribly wrong. Congratulations. Most action RPGs have a heavy focus on stat and skill progression. Simply put, if you farm your way through the game and unlock all those skills, you can cruise through the rest of the game with relative ease. And this is where SoulsBorne begins to differ. Like every other action RPG, you gain experience from enemies in the form of souls.
Your soul is mine.
However, you can't use that experience until you get to a bonfire. And to get to a bonfire means you need to carve your way through more enemies. And if you die, you drop all your souls on that spot with the enemies. And returning to your last bonfire. Yay! And then, worse, if you die before then, you lose all those souls you picked up. Yes, all. Meaning, reset on that leveling up. Yay! Sure, in a desperate last-ditch effort, you can try and grab them and run, but you're probably just gonna get your ass beat and they'll just be stuck there. So this means that you actually need to rely on a bit of skill and patience to be able to use those souls. It creates a fantastic high risk, high reward system to ensure that the player knows what's on the line. Even grinding for a level requires you to know the ins and outs of combat. A simple mistake can cost you hours of work. Hours, guys. Hours. No. And so, the SoulsBorne series transcends the genre. This is where intrinsic motivation kicks in. Everything hinges on how skilled you are in combat. While combat plays out like an action RPG, it feels more akin to a fighting game. It ebbs and flows as you try and figure out the ideal time to strike and the best time to defend. This is best played out in the series' incredibly designed and often infamous boss battles. These battles are barriers to progression, testing all of your skills at that point. Each boss has a unique moveset and pattern that you need to master to get the best of them. Sure, you can boil it down to, if I hit them enough times, they'll die. That's easier said than done, because hitting them, that's where the problem comes in. Like a fighting game, you constantly need to measure and gauge the enemy. When is it best to push for an attack, and when is it best to retreat to avoid taking massive damage or just plain getting killed. These are characterized by the classic wind-ups before the attacks, which you need to read. Like a fighting game, hey? 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 No? Okay. We'll move on. If you thought FromSoft were gonna make things easy for you, you're wrong. The addition of the stamina bar means you're limited to the number of strikes, dodges, and blocks you're able to execute before that bar drains out. This means you need time to rest up in combat, but also need to gauge the opportune moment to strike your enemy down. This ramps up combat to 11 as you try to factor in all these elements to formulate the perfect strategy to down the boss. Mistiming offers little to no reprieve, forcing you to hone your instincts as they lunge, grab, and try to tear away at you. Essentially, these bosses function as puzzles to solve. Except the puzzles hit you back when you place a piece incorrectly. Yay! So I've been focusing on the intrinsic motivation, but what about the extrinsic at the end of the day? The SoulsBorne series still focuses on a more traditional RPG leveling system. There's a focus on stats leveling. The higher your stats, the better your chances you have of getting through certain areas. Boost your strength to deal more damage, your vitality to gain more health, blah blah. You get the picture, you know, it's the standard operating procedure. The MO is there, but something feels a little bit different. See, the fantastic design of these games means that you can't just use those raw stats to take them down. And this is where the two systems intersect so perfectly. If you want to take down any enemies or bosses, you need to be correctly leveled. But you also need an understanding of the enemy ahead of you. Your level could be very high, and quite frankly, you can still get your ass beat if you're overconfident, or have never faced the enemy before and don't understand their attack patterns. Unlike more traditional RPGs, there is room for variation. Leveling up your stats will give you a very teeny tiny bit more room for error, essentially meaning that you could down said enemy in fewer tries. This also means you can defeat these opponents if you're underleveled, so you already have to be a bit of a masochist to take on the SoulsBorne series. But to take it on underleveled, you gotta be something of a John Wick.
John is a man of focus, commitment, sheer will. Something you know very little about.
But hey, look, you can beat this game with a banana, then how hard can it be?
I'll see y'all. I'll see y'all when I can. And GG. Like, yeah, it's so different when you actually can do damage, y'all. Well, that's the run.
It's truly satisfying once you've bested a boss, the thrill of knowing you've improved and learned from your mistakes. And once you've downed the enemy, you can revel in this sweet, sweet souls to boost your character. So you better find that bonfire. No boss embodies all of the above more than Bloodborne's Orphan of Kos. Orphan of Kos serves as the final boss of the Old Hunters DLC, and is possibly the hardest boss I've ever experienced in a game. He's meant to push you to your absolute limit. Even if you're at the high level, you still need a certain level of skill to down this monster. He's fast and has a devastating moveset that punishes any mistake, putting you on the brink of death. He's able to hit you at range, close you down quickly, and then smash you to pieces in that close quarter combat. Just when you think you're figuring this dude out, he drops his second form. It's an absolutely brutal fight that tests the limit of the player. You're limited to 1 or 2 hits and cannot miss the windows for your dodges or parries. His terrifying speed also means you can't simply keep your distance. You don't have the safety of an NPC summon. You need to use everything you've learned to best the Orphan. It's one of the most intense battles in Bloodborne, but it's also so satisfying once you've bested him. You know you've improved and you've been able to figure out this goddamn puzzle after 4.5 hours of being beaten like a dirty dish rag. Now it is time for some poetry.
No! God, please, no! No!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, SoulsBorne, I feel like a newborn. As you pop me like a corn, my mind is left torn, broken and forlorn. No game has quite captured the essence of the SoulsBorne series. Sure, the game is more than just combat, but let's not forget those haunting visuals, glorious soundtrack, and the difficulty. The goddamn difficulty. But for me at least, it's the combat what makes it all just work. It motivates you to become a better person and conquer your demons. Or just give up in the face of a challenge. And that's what makes video games great. Thank you so much for coming to share in my love of the SoulsBorne series. I'd like to thank SuperEyepatchWolf and SuperLouis64 for their assistance in bringing this video to life. If you have any topic that you'd like me to cover, then drop it in the comments below. Or just share your experience with any of these games. And share the trauma that they've brought to you. I'm that Nomad Shad, and this is why I